Welcome to lesson 6. Today we're going over fillets and chamfers, variables, what they are, how to use them, and variable tables and patterns, specifically circular patterns. So we're going to be making a fidget spinner. I already have a little bit of a template of one of the spokes of the fidget spinner done. We're going to be using that, adding some fillets and chamfers to it, and then revolving it to actually create our fidget spinner. So to start, I'll use the fillet tool, which can be found right here. So what the fillet does is it will take an edge and add a nice radius to it. You can define your radius size right here. And then to use the tool, you just determine your radius size, which I'm going to leave as 0.1 for today. And then you just select the edge or edges that you would like to add that fillet to. So if I click on this edge right here, it does create a nice rounded edge, you can see. And what OnShape will do is when you click on an edge, it will continue that edge up until it gets to a stopping point. So even though I just clicked on this arc right here, it did continue on both sides to the end of the part, which is what I want in this case. I'm also going to do my backside. And then once I click my green check mark, you can see that it does create a nice rounded curve on both of those edges. So now I'm going to move to the chamfer tool, which can be found right next to the fillet tool. So chamfers are similar to fillets. The only difference is uh, fillets do a radius, chamfers do a diagonal edge where they take off either an equal distance, which is one of the options. If we do equal distance, once we determine uh, the distance, it will take off that much on either side of the edge. So if I just select an edge here, so it would be 0.12 inches going back in this direction and 0.12 inches going down to where this one is. So that's what equal distance is. That means both of those distances are the same. A couple other options here. We have two distances, which we'll use here in just a minute. There's also distance and angle. So you could choose a distance and then choose an angle. So if it's at 45, that means that the distances are going to be the same. If I change this to, say, 30, you can see that it doesn't go quite as far down because this angle uh, is not as steep. So I'm going to use two distances, which is very similar to your distance and your angle, where they're not always going to be the same. So in this case, I want distance 1 to still be 0.2, but then I only want distance 2 to be 0.1. So when I do that, you can see that it goes out farther this way. So it goes out 0.2 horizontally and 0.1 vertically. So that can give you a lot of variation on what you can do. I also want to apply this to this bottom one. Now, if I click the green check mark, you can see that I did add it to both sides. And that kind of simulates the weights that are usually in fidget spinners. So now we'll move on to variables and patterns kind of together. I'm going to be using a variable to determine how many spokes I want on my fidget spinner. What that will allow me to do is easily change the variable later, and then the model will automatically update based on the changes that I make to that variable. This can really benefit when you have multiple dimensions that are reliant on one number. Rather than having to go through and change those manually, you can actually reference that number, a variable, and then just change that variable, and then OnShape will actually do the work and automatically update all those calculations for you. So today's example is a very simple example, but it will show you how to do it. So there's two ways to add a variable. You can either go over to the variable table and actually type it in right here. Just do new variable Uh, when you do a variable name, it can't have any spaces. So what I typically do is do an underscore when I need a space or would like a space. You don't have to even have the space. I can just do new variable with no space. And when I want to click enter, now my new line comes in. So I do have a few options here. I have length, which is a distance, angle, which would be in degrees, and then number, which is just a straight number, or I can do any. So those are the options. Um, and then I'll go ahead and close this. You can see that after I created it, it also creates it over here in the feature tree. So I'm just going to delete this real quick, and then I'm going to show you how you can actually create it a variable while you're uh, actually in your modeling process. So I know I want to create a circular pattern to revolve this part. So what I'm going to do is uh, click my circular pattern. If it's not visible, uh, linear patterns usually visible by default. So you'll see these kind of four squares. If that you see that, click this arrow and then do circular pattern. So now I have a few different options. I have a part pattern, a feature pattern, or a face pattern. So the part pattern will actually uh, pattern a part itself. So it would be all of this. A feature pattern would only pattern a certain feature, like an extrude or an extruded cut, something like that. If you're doing an extrude or an extruded cut, a feature pattern might work. If you're doing something like what I'm doing here that has fillets and things like that, it works better if you do that as a part. Um, if you're just trying to feature or do a feature pattern of just a fillet or a chamfer, it usually doesn't work very well. So I'm going to leave this as part. I do want to do add, that way all of the three different parts combine together. And then now I'm going to click for entities to pattern. I'm going to click my part here. And then for an axis, if you have something that's round, you can actually just use a uh, the rounded surface, and it will uh, revolve it around that. If not, you might have to create a line on a sketch for it to revolve around. And just to kind of demonstrate the difference between new and add. So new, you can kind of see that it creates new parts for each one of these. So like that would actually be four different parts, and they won't actually be combined into one. And you can kind of see that over here. So we have the fidget spinner, then part two, part three, part four. I want them all to be the same. That way it's one solid piece. Now, I'm going to leave my angle as 360. If I didn't want to revolve it all the way around, I could change the angle. And then for the instant count, that's when I'm going to use my variable. If I had already created the variable, I could just start typing in the variable name and it would find it. If not, what I can do is the pound sign and then type in what I want to call it. So say spokes. And then now it has this new variable box that pops up. If I click enter, it creates a new variable and the name is spokes, which is what I typed in here after the pound sign. And now I can choose length, angle, number, or any, just like I could over in my variable table. And then now I can define my value I want. I want it to be a number. It defaults to number because it knows it needs just a number here, not a length or an angle. And then I'll leave it as 4. Go ahead and click the green check mark. So now it created my variable here. And now if I click this green check mark, it will create my feature. Now, let's say that I want to go back and change my variable. All I have to do, I can either right mouse click and edit, or I can just double click on it. And then this little window pops up. And now if I go in, I can actually change that value and click my green check mark. And now you can see that I changed it to 3. So now there's only 3 of them. It's really beneficial, especially as you get into more complex modeling, to be able to update things, especially in multiple places using one variable. So I can also change my value over here in my variable table. If I came in here and did 4, you can see that it automatically updates just like that. So to finish this, I'm going to kind of round these corners off a little bit more with the fillet tool, just to demonstrate the fillet tool again. In this case, I want to do 0.4 inches. So then again, I'm just selecting my lines. So when I click on this line, it is going to continue up on both of these curves up until it gets to a point where I can't really add it anymore. So as I come through and do this, and then finish my fillet, view isometric. So now you can see that there's nice curvature here. I have nice rounded corners on all my edges here. So it's a nice little fidget spinner. For this lesson, that's all I have.